Hello and blessings, beautiful souls. Saravá Axé to you. How are you today? It is the most gorgeous autumn day. Oh, I can start to see the leaves on trees turning and the temperature dropping and the sunlight now becoming a little bit more redundant. So it's just a lovely, lovely little space. So today I wanted to talk to you about something that's a little bit interesting and something that's a little bit magical. And that is, there are two kinds of magic. And this is something that Gordon and I have found ourselves talking about of late. And I have been able to really think about exactly, what the subject pertains. And so I'm going to dive straight in because I want this one to be a short and a sweet one. So in my very, very humble opinion, and it is just that, my own personal perspective, so in part this could be a This Witch's Perspective video if it wants to be, there is to me two kinds of magic, which may seem odd because magic is in itself a wide energy, universal. It is as constructive as it is destructive, and there is just less complexity to it than many make out. However, to me in this modern age, as I look out onto the landscape of witchcraft and as I delve back into the roots, my hereditary practice, my traditional witches practice that belong to my family, what I have noticed is that there is a distinction between magic. There is neo-pagan magic, which is very cutting edge, very modern, and has its own style and flavor and appeal, and definitely is on trend and quite current now in this society. And it's flourishing and it's beautiful and it's drawing so much attention and it's transforming and it's ebbing and it's flowing. And that's really exciting to watch and see. It really is, as a whole new era of practitioners step into the limelight and express themselves in a very unique way. And then there is non-neo-pagan magic. Magic that exists outside of the neo-pagan umbrella and that is devoid of 21st century labels. You know how we love to place labels on things? Well, the magic that I'm referring to is devoid of those labels. And the more I think about it, the more I feel this is my own personal truth. Because, that's my little girl in the background, because the way traditions across the world practice magic differ greatly one to the other. These variants in practices are as common as they are uncommon. And what I mean by that is that you will find common threads between certain cultural practices and certain religions that sit outside of the neo-pagan umbrella. And yet they will all have that unique flavor unto themselves. But they move differently, they feel different. They have a resonance and an energy that just feels so unbelievably different to that of neo-pagan magic. There's the flavor, the sounds, the smells, the ingredients. It's just different. It's so, so, so different. And it's something to be appreciated. And as I look further into my roots and how I can best practice the religion of my family in a place that doesn't offer the support and the facilities and the ingredients even so that I can effectively do that, I'm looking to sister and cousin practices at this very moment in time, and I'm finding myself leaning towards certain traditions that practice spiritism and folk magic and intertwining those two, because essentially that is what Umbanda is. It's very hard to practice Umbanda outside of Brazil because Umbanda is a Brazilian religion. It's a diaspora religion. And What you need to practice Umbanda is a terreiro. You need a mãe ou pai de santo. You need an organ. You need an ekade. You need mediums. You need drums. You need statuary. You just need things that you cannot get access to here unless you've got an entire terreiro of Umbanda practitioners. And so what you will find is when people migrate outside of Brazil and they are of Umbanda or Candomblé, it's very difficult to sustain those practices outside of that culture unless they are established, unless they themselves are established mediums having gone through multiple rites of passage. And while I have gone through several rites of passage, I have not gone through the rites of passage that are necessary for me to be able to horse a deity and or spirit outside of an Umbanda space, of a proper Umbanda terreiro. And so with that said, I know that there was a lot of foreign word in there for you, and I do apologize for that. But there are no other descriptives, so I have to go with what is culturally appropriate in that scenario. But what I have found is that with all of that said, with this understanding that I cannot fully and completely practice my family's religion here in Australia where I am under these conditions, and even if I moved to a different part of Australia, there is no saying that I would be able to access that either, unless of course there was a fully formed terreiro anywhere in the area, and that's just not practical. In Brazil, there's a terreiro everywhere, like there's terreiros all over the place, so you don't have to go far in order to find a terreiro and to join a terreiro and do your thing. But here it's not the case, and that is because it's not a religion of this part of the world. And so outside of the religious aspects of Umbanda, there are folk magical practices and a spiritism. And did I say a spiritism? It's just spiritism without the E. And sorry about that. Sometimes my brain switches into Portuguese. The word in Portuguese is espiritismo. And so the E is there consciously present, like lingering in my mother language background. So I do apologize. Nevertheless, moving on, because I digress there. What I find is that there are common threads that I can follow that can keep me connected to cultural practices that are, you know, important to me. Folk magical practices, commonly associated as low magical practices. And there is that spiritism aspect. And I feel like I'm repeating myself now, so I do apologize. But there are ways in which I can connect to my root practices through different models of magic and spirituality that sit outside of the neo-pagan umbrella. And this is where this entire thought form has come about, is because I am trying to find a way, and I'm looking at pathways that lead me further away from neo-paganism and more into, say, hoodoo practices, despite the fact that I know that hoodoo is very cultural in its way, and so I am not seeking to become a hoodoo root worker, practitioner, or a conjurer in any way, but I'm looking to that to see if there are similarities. And I'm looking beyond that. I'm looking to cunning work. I'm looking to, you know, shamanism, which is very global. I am an animist after all, and so I can find my way to these places and to these practices. And essentially where I'm going is folk magic. Folk magic is my bag. It always has been. It keeps me connected to home. And these folk magic practices that have stood the test of time exist still intact in different parts of the world. If you were to practice folk magic in Rio, as a part of an Umbanda coven or a family tradition, you will find that the ingredients that are called for are the same ingredients that were called for a long time ago. And so this notion of there being only Reconstructionist types of traditions and only Reconstructionist type of magic, I think it's utter nonsense, because there are still traditions in place. And I'm not just talking about family traditions. I'm talking about traditions that sit outside of the Western cultural context. So there is voodoo, there is hoodoo, there is cunning work. There is traditional witchcraft of the Cornish variety, for instance. There's Umbanda, there's Candomblé, there's Kimbanda. There's many others that I don't even know about. Shamanism at its very core, that sit well outside of this reconstructionist idea that belongs so much to neo-paganism. And so, to me, there is two different kinds of magic. The neo-pagan magic, which is very interesting in and of itself, I must say, because I have spent quite a bit of time learning about neo-pagan magic. I'm talking about 20 years here, so it's not just a little foray. I haven't just been at this for a little bit of time. You know, I've spent time, I've practiced, I've formed covens in that neo-pagan modern witchcraft, you know, scenario or scene. And it's been very enjoyable, and I've learnt a lot, I must say. I've learnt a lot about mythology, particularly Celtic mythology, Norse mythology. Whew. I've learnt a lot, and there is so much beauty and wisdom and truth to neo-paganism, and I don't at all feel poorly towards it. But I'm just being called in a different direction, and because of that calling into a different direction, I am noticing that there are vast differences between what is practiced under that neo-pagan umbrella, and is very beautiful, and also what is practiced outside of that neo-pagan context. Outside of all those 21st century labels, where it's just magic, and it's dressed up in whichever culture that magic is being practiced. And it's a beautiful thing when you start to walk down a path that holds so much new wonder. You know, talking to Gordon, we were talking about pathways too, and that is finding your way, trying to find a connection between you, your religion, your practices, the things that you vibe with, your heritage, your culture, your ancestry, all that kind of good stuff. Finding a pathway there to another practice in a respectful manner. And that's exactly where I'm at right now in this journey back to my roots. I understand that there are limitations, and that there are things that are going to be very tricky for me to do, but it's all such a beautiful adventure, and it's a beautiful, amazing opportunity for me to just carve something out that is unique and that still honors my ancestry. I don't think that I can functionally do that without having a understanding that there are many pathways to the right way. Do you know what I mean? There's always this concept of the right way to practice, the right way to do this, the right way to do. I don't believe that there is a right way, generally speaking. I believe that there is a right way for you, and there is certainly a right way for me. And in order for me to find that right way, then I have to do quite a bit of digging. And it's because of this, you know, digging, that I'm in this frame of mind where I can discuss such things as there being two kinds of magic. At its core, there's not two kinds of magic. But for me to make sense of what it is that I am looking at, yes, there is two kinds of magic. Yes, it all exists in that, you know, in that beautiful sphere of universal energy. Indeed, yes, I believe that to be true. But for me to make sense of what it is that I'm doing, of where it is that I'm going, for me to gain direction, it is important for me to distinguish between two kinds of magic. And it's time for me to move away from neo-paganism, which is something that I have said before in one of my Back to My Roots videos. And it does kind of like tug at the heartstrings, but it has been such a warm and cozy security blanket for me for such a long time. And now it's time to make these epic changes and throw everything out, so to speak, and start bringing things back in that truly resonate with where it is that I am aiming to go. And this idea of there being two different kinds of magic is right in the forefront of how I'm going to do this. I know what to look for. I know what is neo-pagan and I know what is not neo-pagan now. And I know that I need to differentiate between the two in order for me to make certain choices and certain decisions and to head down certain paths. So this is not me trying to split apart Magick in any way. That's not what I'm doing at all. This is me finding my own way so that I can get to where I need to go in keeping with what I am aiming to achieve at the very end of it all, I guess. And so I need to find a way to better honor my ancestors, and I need to find a way to practice aspects of my family's tradition respectfully in a place that doesn't cater for it. I need to be able to invite my ancestors to this land that I am at now. And that's a whole other story, because I have moved around so much since I have been here in Australia that holy doolies, I haven't been able to invite my ancestry over. I have my guides that work with me always, but here, this place has unlocked a totally new guide to me. A guide that has appeared twice now and that I'm very, very curious about. So I'm in conversation with a Mãe Santo in Rio, and I'm talking to my own family about this, trying to determine who she is, and it's exciting. So the fact that that has happened to me here suggests to me that this will eventually be ancestral land for me. This will be land that will be handed down to my children. This will be a place I should say, that will host ritual, a place where I can welcome my ancestry in. And so I'm looking for many ways in which I can do that respectfully, and it's such a huge process for me that I have to start. That's a wind, I do apologize. And it's such a huge process for me that I have to start looking at things in a different perspective. And this idea of there being two kinds of magic is definitely a unique way of looking at things. But it works for me right now, and it's making sense, and it's assisting me to do what I need to do. So this was an epic ramble. Epic ramble. Can you say epic ramble? I certainly can. And I thank you for spending this time with me and for letting me just decompress to you, because that is essentially what this is. This is a heart-to-heart. I'm sharing stuff with you here. I'm decompressing so that I can have that conversation out loud, so that it means something, so that it solidifies and grounds it. So I wanted to say thank you. If you have managed to sit through this entire ramble, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if you have anything to add to this conversation, then please do so. I would absolutely love to hear what you have to say. And just remember that this is just my own personal perspective, and that you will no doubt see things very differently to the way that I see things. But this is my way, my pathway, and I have to honor my feelings, and I have to honor my calls, and I have to honor so many things that are unique to who I am. And there needs to be some level of respect for that as well. So with all of that said and done, I am wishing you so much love, luck, peace and joy. And I sincerely hope that wherever you are and whatever you are doing, that you are surrounded by magic. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if this video really tweaked your curiosity. And do comment below, do like this video, do share it around. By giving this video a thumbs up, it shows that you appreciate what it is that I'm saying and doing. It also encourages me to continue on with my daily vlogs, because this will be number 68, I think, number 68. I'm starting to lose count. And so I've been going at this for a very long time, and I hope that you can appreciate that. So please do give that little thumbs up to me, because I'm trying so hard here to make sure that I can deliver quality content to you on a daily basis. And I can't think of another person in our witch pagan community who is doing that at this moment in time. If there were, gosh, I'd be watching them too. So with all of that said and done, take care, beautiful souls, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow. Mwah.